There, how are you this morning? I just need to go and get some flowers and then I'll come and join you on the patio table. Rather chilly this morning and I've got my husband's gardening shoes on, which is an old pair of his shoes, so I'm looking very glamorous. So what I wanted to do is to cut lots of my zinnias and keep them on as long a stem as possible. For today, I'm going to do a classic cut and plonk arrangement to put into a vase. So this will get me started. So if you're hopping on and joining me live, do let me know where you are coming from, and is it feeling a bit nippy in the air for you too? So here we go. Just a few stems. I've just broken that one. A few stems of zinnia, which I'm going to put to one side for the moment. So I will just let them sit in that vase there and just move them out of the way. Today is all about doing a little bit of housekeeping. Now today is a very special day because it's when Zoom flower class starts again. So we've had a little bit of break over the summer. So Zoom flower class starts at 12 o'clock today, Tuesday the 27th of September, and lasts for 8 weeks with a break for half term. So if you're interested in coming along to class, check out the link in the description underneath the video once this gets published, and you've still got time to sign up. And even if you're watching this a little bit later on, all the videos are available on catch up. Oh, hello Fiona, we're in the same country at long last. Oh, I hope you're having a really great trip visiting your uncle. So before I fill my house with flowers for Zoom flower class, although that's a little bit of a lie, because in Zoom flower class this time round we're concentrating on techniques. So actually we're not going to have very many flowers in class, unless of course you decide that the technique item that we make, you want to incorporate it into a fully blown flower arrangement. And good morning, Joan, as well. So as part of my tidying up, I've timed this a little bit wrong because we have a compost bin service, as well as having our own compost heap in the garden. We pay the council to come and take away our compost. So I can never remember which day of the week. I think it comes once a month, I'm not entirely sure, subscription service. But I did notice when I got up this morning that our brown bin is waiting out on the curbside, and I suddenly thought, oh, but I've got 4 flower arrangements that have gone over, and they're just sitting in my in the house, just slowly rotting out of the way. So let me know in the comments whether you're really good at getting your flower arrangements, you know, when they've gone over. Do you get rid of them straight away? I quite like seeing them fading. And I'm slightly embarrassed to show you this, because I am, after all, the florist that teaches. And just look at the state of the arrangements that I have at home. So first of all, this time last week, I did a workshop for my own flower club in town, and ladies there wanted to learn more about leaf manipulation. So I held a session on leaf manipulation. I'm so embarrassed about this. And then we incorporated our manipulated flowers into an arrangement. So let me take this apart and I'll show you what to do. Joan, you love leaf manipulation. What have you done then? You have to let me know in the comments what kind of manipulation you've done. So the focus of the day was that we made these Formium Tenax roses. And when I made this last week, you couldn't see all those gaps there, but as the material dries out, it shrinks and gets quite gappy. So if you ever do make a Formium rose, once you've done your first one, I would say make a second, but really make your fixings, your weavings, really, really tight and secure. And that way, when it does dry out, hopefully it won't look too gappy like this. So I think, Joan, you're saying you've made one before like that, but you can't remember how to do it. So I'm going to probably keep that, and it'll dry out eventually. It'll go it's sort of parchment colours. In fact, it'll go the same sort of colour as the chair that I'm sitting on. So I'm going to keep that. Now, everything else in here, I'm going to take out and get rid of. So I've got sunflowers. So those sunflowers did double duty. These were the sunflowers that I used in the flower festival, which would have been, how many weeks ago now? At least 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks ago. It was the weekend that the Queen died. So that must make it a good, can't remember now, the date that she died. Is that 3 weeks ago? Can't quite remember. Oh, look, out of one of them, there's one that almost looks like it's still alive. So if I was being, really, really saving everything, I could pick the petals off this and save the flower heads. But, I've just got too much going on with other flowers. So I am going to get rid of it. So I shall get my compost bucket and then get rid of all those flowers. So into the bin. There was one thing that was from my delivery, my bucket of flowers from the flower farm, and that must be about 3 weeks ago. I've just got that single stem left. And I'm going to halt my deliveries at the moment because, of course, it's going into the autumn season. There's not much in the garden, but I will definitely think about having that next year. So in terms of other leaf manipulation, we made curly or wavy aspidistra leaves. And the demonstrator's favourite, if you've ever been to a flower club demonstration, you've probably seen your demonstrator take a big aspidistra leaf and pierce it with its own stem. So that was that. And then we did some rolls as well, some little sort of hair curler rolls, which have been stapled together. So those have all got staples and wires in them. So I will need to get rid of those before I put them in the compost bin. And then what I'm left with is my windowsill vase with the last few stems in it and some really disgusting smelly water. So if I tip the water away, and I'll show you the mechanics. Oh, thanks, Fiona. They are really good fun to make, and especially when these are, again, the leaves are a little bit old, but when they are really green, when they're very fresh, as I say, they're lovely and glossy, really dark. These are starting to dry out a little bit, so they're sort of losing that vibrancy of colour. But that was my mechanics inside. A scrunched up bit of chicken wire, which I'd held in place with pot tape. So the pot tape will go in the bin. And then what I tend to do is put my wire into the washing up bowl, and then I boil the kettle and sort of slosh it all over just to make sure that I'm getting rid of, the bacteria from the last round of flower arranging. And then I will hand wash my windowsill vase, which was a charity shop find. That cost me £4. Now, I don't know whether in my excitement that I didn't notice that there's a crack down here, or whether I did that because I was shopping with my sisters and I can remember putting my bag down on the floor while I got the boot open, and I don't know whether I was just a bit heavy-handed when I put it down, but I quite like that. The sort of it's not the Constant Spry style of vase, but it's definitely got a 60s and 70s vibe to it, and I quite like the dark colour because all my other vases like this are a white or shades of pale green. So that's number one out of the way. Number two, now, if you don't like using flower foam, I would look away now. So I have got another demonstration piece. I went to another flower club a few weeks ago. Again, this was the Monday after the Queen died, so it seemed rather apt that the club had asked me many, many moons ago if I would show them a floristry technique, and they wanted to do funeral tributes. Oh, Fiona, your passion for windowsill vases, that's fabulous. What you will have to do, Fiona, one day is photograph them and email them to me, and then I can, share a little bit of your pleasure for those. So a traditional funeral tribute made with 3 bunches of supermarket flowers. So when I go and teach workshops, I normally take supermarket flowers with me because I know that many of the ladies and gentlemen that come to class don't have a florist nearby or feel they can't afford to spend out at florist prices. So I always say to them, when you're practicing and learning a new technique, that if you buy supermarket flowers, you can put them in your trolley when you do your weekly shop. It keeps the price down. And then, of course, when you want to make a funeral tribute for real, that would be the time when you've got the confidence that you know how to make your tribute, and you've got an idea of how many flowers you need, what colours you're going for, what combinations of flowers you want. At that moment, then you can go into your florist and order your tip-top flowers with absolute confidence. So the reason I say, look away if you don't like using flower foam, is that I've made this on flower foam. So I'm having a bit of a moment really in terms of flower foam. I guess that's how all changes happen. They just happen slowly, don't they? And when I took this booking for the club that wanted to do a funeral tribute, it didn't cross my mind to direct them down a route that didn't involve flower foam. But between booking and actually doing the class, I thought, actually, this doesn't sit so comfortably with me anymore, just going straight to the flower foam and working with that. And as we know, with the Queen's, the tribute from King Charles to his mother was a foam-free floral tribute, which I understand was made with twigs twisted into a circle and would have been bound with moss, and then the plant material from the royal palaces and Highgrove were incorporated. So there is always a way to work around your foam-free. And I think we need to just, it's a slow transition. So what I would say that when you do use foam-free, when you do use flower foam, I always take the flowers off and they can be composted. And then I will throw the base into my general rubbish bin. And that goes, I'm not sure actually here, I think our waste is incinerated, but of course there must be lots of yucky pollution that gets chucked out. And of course if your waste goes to landfill, you're running the risk that as the flower foam breaks down, the microplastics, the smaller and smaller granules of the flower foam, which is a plastic, then get into the watercourse, and you've read as same as I have probably about that getting into the fish and into our farm animals and into our own bodies. So it is not a good thing. So I could put this straight into the bin now, although I do know of many floristry teacher friends that then would get these last little yucky bits off here. I'm getting most of them into my compost bin. Have the option of taking off the flower foam. So getting a knife, I haven't got a knife, my scissors, and actually getting rid of the flower foam in order that you end up with the solid base, which again is a plasticky base, but at least then you could use that for something else. It may be that you want to do, a wreath and you're binding over materials that don't have to be in a water source, and you could use that as the base. So if you want to, it's about reducing, reusing, and trying to wean ourselves off these single-use. Oh, you know what I've done there? I've just scraped it all off. And I put it in my compost bin. So I'm going to have to pull all those bits out later. So I think I'm going to stop cleaning that because I haven't got anywhere to put these wet bits of flower foam. What a total pain. Fortunately, I think on the whole, they're in quite big blobs. So am I going to save this? In all likelihood, I'm not. It's just going to go straight into my general waste bin. So there we have that. Now, a few more things that need tidying up. Do you remember the little vase sort of display? My inspiration from the Queen's funeral tribute. Not looking too bad, but can you see? I've been away for the weekend, and I reckon there's been a casualty in the flower bed. So my husband has poked that into one of the vases, so that zinnia is gone over. Now, on the whole, the flowers don't look too bad. Even the dahlias here have gone to full flower, and then you're left with these seed heads starting to develop. So if I take off the wayward petals, there's still quite an interesting shape there. So although the flowers have gone over, I'm still quite happy to have those on my table. And a lovely scented fennel looks okay, but these bits have gone over, so I'm going to get rid of those. The rosemary for remembrance and my salvia, all looking good. And even that delicate cranesbill geranium is still going strong. And of course, my hydrangea. Hopefully that might dry. And then my little bit of oak. Was that for longevity of love? It's just dried out and gone a bit funny. But the worst thing of that was that I've kept my tray out on the patio table. It's been really lovely to look at. But now, of course, it's got all this detritus on it. So I need to do a little bit of cleaning up here. And getting my sponge and giving that a really good clean. So eventually, when the flowers have absolutely gone over and I'm going to bring the tray back indoors, this will go, you know, a proper wash up in the washing up bowl. But for now, it just needs a little bit of a wipe over, just so when I notice the tray and the flowers, it's actually my eye going to the flowers and not the disgusting state of the tray. So I could put that back on there. Yes, strictly speaking, I should be refreshing the water, but if I'm totally honest, that's just not going to happen. And there, it is looking a lot fresher than it was. So I'm happy with that sitting out on my patio table for a little bit longer. So just cleaning things up can sometimes give your flowers a new lease of life. And then look at this. How dead are those Alstroemeria? So when we did the flower festival a few weeks ago, actually these Alstroemeria were from the flower farmer. And the theme for the festival was memories, and we just had the Faversham International Hop Festival. So my friend and I had put up loads of sort of beer memorabilia, and we've got some reusable mugs that the beer is served in town. And you take your beer mug and you use it from year to year. And what we did was cut the Alstroemeria really short in these beer mugs and used it to represent the froth on the beer. And when I took the display apart, there were just a few stems of Alstroemeria that looked okay. These ones no longer look okay. And I don't know whether you do this too, but you kind of get so used to your flowers and you just think, da-di-da-di-da, doesn't that look lovely? And then, you know, and there's some white flowers. But it's got to the stage they are well and truly dead. I mean, I'll be drummed out of floristry school for this, so they can go straight in the bin. And then this, I'm going to chuck that over there. And then I've got a little vintage vase here, which used to have, these are, you know, salmon and shrimp paste. Was it Shipman's? I think that's an old paste jar. So I quite like the shape of that to use as a little vase. So that needs to be washed up and put away. And then before we get on with the flowers, I've got one more arrangement to take apart. Now, I can't quite remember where I am with my video uploads, but quite possibly I uploaded a video yesterday with arranging dahlias in a flower block, and this was the arrangement. Of course, it looked, when I said on the video that my dahlias were on their last legs and I arranged, and I just wanted to have a practice with arranging my flowers. And this is what my flowers look like when they are dead and gone over. And so if your flowers are looking like this, it's an entirely natural thing. The trick is, if you want your home to look beautiful and you want to make sure that there's no odd smell going on, you need to get rid of your flowers much earlier than this. And in fact, my daughter and I both went around the house on Friday thinking, what's that funny smell? And it was only, you know, after I got away from the weekend, went away for the weekend, I suddenly realised, well, the funny smell was probably a combination of rotting sunflowers, rotting dahlias, and water that had been sitting far too long. So I can get rid of all of this. It is quite nice. I quite like this bit of the process as well, because it's quite mindful when you're putting together your flower arrangements. You know, you're choosing your container, you're thinking whereabouts it's going to go, you're picking your flowers, or you're going out to buy your flowers, and it's quite a contemplative activity as you arrange them. You know, there's serious mold on here, and even when you pick them apart, it's quite nice to, you know, look at them, see what lasted really well, see what went over really quickly. And then I get down to the bottom and it does look like I'm not putting my nose anywhere near this, but it's definitely a murky pond soup. So what I'll need to do, I need to be careful with this vase because it's a vintage flower arranging container, but I will need to, again, really hot soapy water, not only to clean off the detritus, but just as you know, an bacterial, you know, just having a really good clean round, in order that I'm not shortening the life of my next flower arrangement by having bacteria living in my vase. So there's always a bit of housekeeping that needs to be done, which can then bring us on to the flowers for this week. So I've decided to go, because we're doing such careful work in Zoom flower class, I thought it would be good counterbalance to do something that was just, bringing flowers in from the garden. And I could, of course, just keep my flowers out, keep them growing in the garden. I know loads of people who who are proper gardeners, don't like bringing them inside because they much prefer the longevity of their flower out in the garden. But I like bringing them inside. I haven't planted these. All I do is my husband does the gardening, and I pick a few stems. But it's getting to the time of the year now where the flowers are going to start to go over. And if we're not in the garden so much, we're only enjoying the flowers from one side, from what we can see from our windows that face into the garden. So my aim is to cut from the back sides of the plants, because I don't, at this time of the year, go into the garden and sort of look back at the house. I'm not sitting out in the garden reading my magazines. So I thought I would crop a few more of my flowers just to enjoy them, really. So a cut and plonk, really. So let's have a go at doing this. I wonder whether I can adjust the angle. Perhaps I will have to just do that, and you can see what I'm doing. And it may well be that I need to go out and get more flowers. When I just cut that handful, because I put them into the vase when they still had their leaves on, it was sort of choking up the neck of the vase. So this time around, I will, it's just the clean stems going in, and they're much skinnier. Look here, I cut because I wanted a long stem, and I've stopped those two side shoots developing. But I needed them to be quite long because I keep thinking that has flopped over, but actually it is quite turgid, so it's grown like that. So it wasn't me. I thought I'd crushed it. It was a bit of a peculiar angle. So if you've got any questions about Zoom flower class, do let me know. So they do take place live, but I would say not everybody joins live. And in fact, there's some of the people who come to class have been coming for a couple of years, because I started these classes during lockdown. And some people I have never met because they watch all the videos on catch up. Now, do you think that needs a little bit more flower in it? I think it probably does. So shall I go for my more and more zinnias? Actually, what I might do is let's go clashing, because I've gone for all the pinks before. I'm going to go long there with some orange, and then I've got some yellow. Oh, a lovely orange. Oh, that's a beauty there. And then some yellow dahlias, just to get it looking a little bit more glitzy. It looks, it's pretty, but it just all looks a little bit stiff. So got some clashing colours here, just to sort of start to bring in that sense of autumn. And now I've got the zinnias in. I think there's 7 zinnias in there to start with. They're holding up quite well because they are, quite a turgid, a robust flower. So they do hold up really nicely. They're not flopping to the sides. And I'm sort of keeping the leaves, the sort of crown of leaf above, and that again is helping to support the other flowers. So it's not just skinny stems from top to bottom. There is a little bit of bushiness, and that's helping all the other flowers stand up. So I could put loads more in there. Actually, just filling the container there. Did I put hot water in that instead of cold? Not quite sure. So yeah, just a cut and plonk. It's almost like they've been planted in there. And I quite like having one flower a little bit lower, and it just bridges the gap. If you have all the flowers upright, like if you've gone into the supermarket and bought yourself a pack of roses, they'd all be exactly the same length. So what you would see at the side would just be stem and leaf, and then the flowers would all be at one level. So the beauty of cutting flowers from the garden. They're all different heights. So all I had to do was snip the ends, because naturally I've got some shorter stems, some middle-sized stems, and then the taller stems as well. And that's what you want with your arrangement. A little bit of height and interest. So you see all the flower heads, not just the side view that is just vase, stem, and then hoffer of colour above the top. So that could be an all-round arrangement, but actually I prefer it with that little yellow dahlia right at the front. So I'm going to bring things to a close now. I need to remember to get the oasis out of my flower foam out of my bucket. I am going to throw away that plastic base for the foam, and I have got to do some serious hand washing at quite a hot temperature, so my vases are ready straight away for next time. So that's something I do as well. Always clean your vases straight after you've used them, put them away, and then when you get your next bunch of flowers, you just have the joy of arranging them. You haven't then got that hassle of thinking, oh, that vase is really dirty, I've got to scrub it out first before I can put it to good use. So what I'll do is I'll leave all my usual links down in the description underneath the video. So if you do want to join my free Facebook group, Flower Start World, you're more than welcome to. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or queries, leave the questions in the comments under the video, or if you want to sort of ask them in a more private forum, do come over to my free Facebook group, which is a private group. So you can ask any question you like without feeling embarrassed, because the rest of the world isn't going to know about it. So that's all from me for now, and I'll catch up with you next Tuesday morning at 8:15. And for those of you who signed up for Zoom Cloud Class, I'll see you in a few short hours. That's all from me for now, and I'll catch up with you next time.